Tom Taylor, the face that could condescend a million comic book fans, is apparently leaving a Nightwing, probably the most successful ongoing series he's ever had at Marvel or DC. Generally speaking, some people have enjoyed it. The sales haven't been terrible, although recently it has dipped out of the top 50 a couple of times, but it's normally right outside the top 25. For Tom Taylor's career, I guess you can consider this a success. Me personally, as a Nightwing fan, I'm not enjoying this. I'm kind of happy we're going to get some change. Hopefully they'll bring somebody big on Nightwing. Or actually, they don't even have to be big. I don't care about big name writers. But hopefully they bring somebody competent that actually wants to say something compelling about Nightwing other than that he's great. I don't know if you know this, but Alfred thinks he's great. Flash thinks he's great. Superman thinks he's great. Hell, even Batman thinks Nightwing's great. And that's basically been what the entire premise has been out. And some of you are wondering, where did this all come from? Bruno Redondo responded to the Batman solicits that were posted earlier in the week, noting he was back on Nightwing, starting with issue 114 in May with writer Tom Taylor. Quote, "We are back for our last run, Nightwing Fallen Grayson. Before you ask, yes, I'm doing the interiors on this arc," with the little smiley face emoji on there. They took over. It's been like 3 years and basically nothing has really happened. It is certainly an enormous step up from the Ric Grayson story arc. Who was that? Was that Scott Lobdell? And then it was Dan Jurgens tried to save it, and that wasn't very good either. Just a period for the character I think all Nightwing fans would like to forget. So it was a very low bar for Tom Taylor to exceed, to actually do something somewhat exciting with Nightwing. And it started out kind of okay until he decided that Nightwing had a long-lost sister that was being, I think, raised by Tony Zuko. And then the weird Superman Son of Kal-El crossover where he was giving John Kent lollipops in fucking caves, and John Kent was admitting that the entire time he was out, stuck on Earth Zero with the crime syndicate, he was praying that Nightwing, not his father, would come save him, as if Nightwing can fly through space and in other dimensions and stuff like that. That was really weird. Just the symbolism of the lollipop was really, really creepy in my opinion. And then it basically just became typographical fellatio on the character of Nightwing, where everyone would just show up and tell him how great the character was, like to his face or whatever, just a lot of validation stuff that a lot of newer writers do to try to get characters over, like a Miss Marvel or maybe an Amadeus Cho or a character like that, which you really don't need to do with Dick Grayson. It was really strange. And the worst part about it, despite everyone telling Nightwing how amazing he was and telling everyone else how amazing Nightwing was, when Alfred leaving him like billions of dollars, so now he's richer than Bruce Wayne or whatever and all that kind of stupidness, is the actions of the character in the series are pretty unheroic. He doesn't really do much. He just kind of sits there while there's this new villain that was introduced in the first or second issue of Tom Taylor's Nightwing run is out there just ripping hearts out of people. He's got a mechanism for ripping the hearts out of, like, I guess, homeless teenagers. And he's literally been ripping the hearts out of the citizens of Bloodhaven for, I guess, 3 years in the comic book. So that's almost a full calendar year, in the sliding timeline and all that stuff. And he really hasn't even done anything. And then, like, the worst offense, the thing that I hated the most, because, I check out the solicitations. I do full solicitations, like reviews, and kind of talk about what I'm thinking for both DC and Marvel, but that's exclusive over on the Patreon. And I saw they were going to do like a Nightwing pirate story. I was like, fucking Nightwing pirates? Not even Tom Taylor can screw this up. And then it turns out, do you remember Bia from the Ric Grayson arc where Ric Grayson was kind of dating Bia the bartender? It turns out she's not a bartender. She's Bia the pirate princess. I guess you can't ruin a pirate-themed Nightwing story, which I thought was completely impossible. Like, why did you put Bia in there? Why would you remind anybody of that stupid failed Ric Grayson run? So, in my opinion, it's time for new blood. Let's have a new take on the character. He has been in no man's land for so long. He was a bunch of revolving writers. I do like what Michael Moriarty was able to do on the character with a couple of one-shots. Ben Percy did some pretty exciting stuff there in a short burst before he went over and did the X-Men stuff. And it's just been kind of flat and boring. And, in the worst of times, it was the Ric Grayson stuff. When will this end? They're coming in for their last run. It's going to end at Nightwing 120, so they can say it's a milestone. 120 issues of Nightwing, plus it's Tom Taylor's last ride. So we won't charge you $7 for it. We'll bend you over and charge you $11. Because it's DC Comics in 2024 and it's all just a cash grab anyway, I don't know why DC Comics ever thought Tom Taylor was really going to work on ongoing series. He's never really been able to do that, but they did do this. Tom Taylor signed an exclusive creator contract with DC. The Australian writer announced on Twitter, I can't wait to share everything we have planned for the future. You will see up and away, Taylor tweeted. Taylor was writing the ongoing DC series Nightwing and Superman Son of Kal-El at the time, as well as the limited series Dark Knights of Steel. He also wrote Deceased, a series featuring a zombie-like apocalypse in the DC Omniverse, but takes place outside of DC's main continuity. And really, that's where Tom Taylor has been successful. It's been in stuff like Deceased, which is actually pretty damn good. By the third volume, though, I was kind of done with it. It was all right, but it wasn't nearly as exciting. Obviously, it's the first volume. It's basically just DCs versus zombies. And it can be a whole lot of fun stuff there. I know a lot of people did like Dark Knights of Steel. Everyone was trying to get like their Game of Thrones on as we were coming up to the finale of season 8, season 9, whichever was the final season. Everybody wanted their version of Game of Thrones. The weird thing, DC had George R.R. Martin at one time, and he had proposed a Red Wedding for DC Comics. They didn't want it because they thought it was too violent. I didn't particularly like it. I thought it was all right. I think after 3 issues, I stopped reading it because I didn't think it was that good. But he's certainly best known for this kind of work and Injustice and whatever like that. But whenever he does like ongoing stuff within continuity, he certainly is able to generate headlines, but he doesn't seem to generate many sales. Currently, he's on Titans, which isn't doing very well. We'll get into a few of the details regarding Titans Beast World, the first event that he did at DC, which is an enormous bomb. But we do have to discuss Tom Taylor's absolute failure on the mainline flagship Superman book. DC Comics announced it will axe a recent series that was centered on a bisexual Superman. Superman Son of Kal-El is based around Jonathan Kent, son of Clark Kent and Lois Lane, was launched by DC Comics last year. Now amid poor sales, the comic book publisher announced at New York Comic-Con that its 18th issue, due to release in December, will be its last. In the months after John Kent made his debut in 2021, the 17-year-old character embraced various social issues, including school shootings, fighting climate change deniers, and the deportation of refugees. And that's kind of where Tom Taylor falls really, really flat. I imagine everyone remembers Mustard and Bigotry during his time on X-Men. I think it was the Red series is the one that he was writing. Anytime he gets on one of these ongoing series, they almost become overtaken by his desire to push out his social agenda, his social issues that are really important to him. And you got that stupid cover where someone actually had a sign that said, "There is no planet B." It's like, fuck you, man. This is the DC Comics universe. We had Crisis on Infinite Earths. There's literally no limit to the amount of Earths that are actually out there in this particular universe, but he can't think about it in the concepts of DC Comics, and I think that's where he really gets in his own way, whereas when he works outside of that in Elseworld stories like your Injustice, Deceased, Dark Knights of Steel stuff, he doesn't really need to work within the framework of the actual continuity itself, and then he can't really mess it up. And, as far as comic book writers go in 2024, Tom Taylor actually knows how to write a story. He can kind of plot things out. He's not great with character work, in my opinion, but he is awesome at character moments, especially in stuff like a Deceased or whatever. He even had a couple of character moments in Beast World, which is surprising and actually too bad because Beast World was probably the most fun event I think that DC Comics has done since Blackest Night. I mean, that's been a lot of years and a lot of not fun events. I know some people will argue maybe that Dark Knight's Metal was better as an event. Me personally, I disagree with that. I like some of the tie-ins, but I didn't like the mainline story so much. But even Beast World, Tom Taylor's first big event, ended up being an enormous failure. In December 2023, Beast World had 0 comics in the top 10, 0 in the top 25, and 2 in the top 50. DC released a slew of Titans Beast World one-shots. All of them were sales failures. This has to be a huge disappointment for DC Comics. Titans number 6 fell from the number 46 spot to the number 61 spot. This is the second straight month Titans has fallen in the sales rankings. There is no doubt that DC Comics needs Titans to remain a consistent top 50 seller, and that is because they basically decided to get rid of the Justice League and make the Titans the premier superhero team-up book on all of DC Comics, but they made the big mistake of putting Tom Taylor on it. And what are they doing in Titans? Just a series leading into Beast World. They didn't really lead into it, just a tiny bit. But it's Nightwing and the Titans taking over the prison in Bloodhaven and turning it into the new Titan Towers. A big problem, within the DC Comics universe, Bloodhaven is a more crime-ridden and dangerous city than Gotham. Yes, let's free all the prisoners. That won't result in any deaths or rapes or any violent crimes or anything like that to the people of Bloodhaven that Nightwing was supposed to be protecting. He also had the Titans go into like South America, planting trees and shit like that, because of climate change. Rather than having the Titans going out there and fighting Justice League level of threats to demonstrate that they are actually a Justice League level team when it comes to their powers and all that stuff. And within Titans, much like within You know, the Nightwing series, a whole lot of tell and not a lot of showing about why they were great. So it never really worked out. The sales are kind of dropping, and they're going to have to fast track the Justice League back, you know, with Mark Waid and all that stuff. You know, the one thing I will give Tom Taylor credit for, kind of within the Nightwing series, is it did appear that he wanted to reestablish the Nightwing, Dick Grayson, Barbara Gordon relationship, and it almost felt like maybe they were going to get married or engaged. I hope he has the balls to do it. I wish he would just kind of pull the trigger on that one, because it would be nice to see the character progress a little bit. I'm tired of Dick Grayson Nightwing being the guy with like the nice ass, and that's the only thing that defines the character. Let's put him in a relationship and let him stick with it. Let's get him married. Let's see if he can have a kid. You know, they've already got a 3-legged dog that they ripped off from Hawkeye and Matt Fraction. Let's see if they can actually get the couple together. I don't think he'll do it, but I certainly hope that he does. And I imagine after 3 years, he's finally going to defeat Heartless. Although Bea Bloodhaven, the pirate princess we were promised, has already told Dick Grayson to stay out of her way, that she was going to be the one to actually kill Heartless because he killed her father or whatever. I imagine that finally gets resolved. A 3-year story arc, like normally when you do that, I'm going to go off here a little bit. Normally when you have somebody that lasts for 3 years, it's because they're a politician or they're a business tycoon, or there's somebody that's like untouchable because their hands aren't dirty. Like they've got all these goons working under them, but there's nothing really leading to them. So the hero knows that this guy is doing that or he's doing that, but there's nothing he can do about it within the confines of the law because there's nothing that sticks to him. This guy is literally ripping people's hearts out. He did nothing about it. So I don't know, man. Maybe Tom Taylor and my understanding of comic books and superheroes are just completely off base. I would love to see Nightwing stop being typographically filleted in every single issue and actually do something meaningful. That would be a lot of fun because he's been certainly verging into the SJW soy boy fucking character that I think a lot of people are pretty much turned off to at this point in time within comic books. We shall see what happens there. Certainly I will be continued to cover this one, not only here on the YouTubes, but also on the Patreon, where we have at least 8 hours of brand new comic book centric content every single week for you to check out in podcast form. Lots of fun there. Your favorite guests like Aaron Sparrow, Doc, Jim, 32 flavors of Nick Weiser, and obviously yours truly as well. So if you haven't checked that out, there's a link in the video description.